The Fracture of Biel-Tan. The Eldar, a race fractured by their catastrophic fall, cling to desperate schemes to evade Slaanesh, the chaos deity birthed from their ancient sins. The Craftworlders bind their souls to spirit stones and infinity circuits, preserving their essence in crystalline prisons. Dark Eldar of Commorragh feed on the anguish of others, a grim sustenance to stave off their god's hunger. Harlequins, devotees of the trickster Kagarak, dance through fate's threads with cryptic intent, while the Exodites and verdant worlds commune with world spirits, seeking a purity long lost. Once, the Eldar dominated the stars. They are now diminished. Their ambitions a perilous gamble that could unravel their fragile existence further. Eldrad Ulthran, High Farseer of Craftworld Ulthwe, a seer of unmatched prescience, discerned a faint pulse within the infinity circuit, a collective resonance of billions of departed Eldar souls, whispering of Ynnead, the god of the dead. The prophecy of Caesarus promised Ynnead's rise when the last Eldar falls, a hope to shatter Slaanesh's curse, freeing their race from eternal torment. Driven by this vision, which doesn't really make sense if you think about it, Eldrad resolved to awaken Ynnead prematurely, a reckless act that risked destabilizing the galaxy's psychic balance. He chose Coheria, a desolate moon orbiting the imperial world of Port Demesnos, its sands of psychoactive crystal shimmering with echoes of the Eldar's fall, a fitting crucible for his audacious ritual. Allied with the Harlequins of the Mask of the Midnight Sorrow, led by the enigmatic death gesture Inriam's spectre, Eldrad stole fossilized Farseer statues from the Craftworlds, their crystalline forms arrayed in a sacred circle to channel the Infinity Circuit's energies into a psychic flare to rouse Ynnead. Coheria's dunes glowed under a haze of psychic mist, the crystal sands singing with eons of sorrow, conjuring visions of the dead, Eldar and others that twisted the perception. The Harlequins, their masks glinting with eerie light, stood sentinel around Eldrad's council, shuriken pistols and monofilament blades poised to fend off intruders. To conceal the ritual, Eldrad orchestrated a diversionary assault by forces from Ulthwe and Samhan on Port Demesnos' Imperial Navy base, a feint to draw attention from the moon's sanctity. The base's orbital defences, bristling with lance batteries, were thrown into disarray as Eldar skimmers and grav tanks struck with surgical precision, sowing chaos to mask the ritual's psychic emanations. Yet the Imperium's vigilance could not be so easily thwarted. The Death Watch, elite Xenos hunters of the Ordo Xenos, led by Watch Captain Artemis of the Mortifactors, detected the Eldar's presence through signals intercepted by the Corvus Blackstar lethal intent. Artemis, a warrior forged in relentless combat against alien threats, defied orders to remain at Port Demesnos, his hatred for the Xenos outweighing protocol. Supported by the venerable dreadnought Nihilus, Artemis and his kill team deployed to the moon's surface. They were immediately assaulted by a psychic haze, conjuring visions of fallen comrades, space marines and imperial heroes, interwoven with Eldar spectres, a torment born of the moon's cursed origins. Eldrad attempted a psychic parley with Artemis, offering claims of mutual benefit against a greater evil. But Artemis was unyielding. his distrust of the Xenos, righteous and true, forged by years of purging the alien across the Jericho Reach. The Harlequins struck with blinding speed, their shuriken volleys slicing through the mist, each monomolecular disc a whisper of death. Their lasers crackled with lethal precision, targeting the Death Watch's weak points with preternatural accuracy. The Space Marines, operating in paired formations to counter the Harlequins' agility, fought through the haze, their bolters roaring with disciplined fury. Artemis led the charge, his power sword gleaming as he cut through the mist, undeterred by the psychic assaults. Nihilus, his chassis scarred from battles against orcs and tyranids, anchored the advance, his plasma cannon searing through Harlequin ranks. The clash was chaotic. The Harlequins' fluid, impossible movements testing the Space Marines' transhuman resolve. Yet the Death Watch held firm, their training honed against the galaxy's most cunning of foes. As the ritual neared its climax, the crystal statues pulsed with psychic energy, the air crackling with unnatural power that threatened to tear reality asunder. Eldrad, his robes shimmering with runes, stood at the circle's heart, his staff channeling the Infinity Circuit's resonance. The Harlequins, their masks now glowing with a sinister light, redoubled their defence, their blades weaving a deadly tapestry. Artemis, recognizing the ritual's threat, deployed a stasis bomb, a forbidden device from the Order Xenos' secret arsenals, designed to warp the temporal fabric. Its detonation unleashed a chronological distortion, freezing the psychic flare in a moment of stasis before shattering the statues that glittered in the darkness. The Harlequins faltered, their coordination broken as the psychic backlash overwhelmed them. Coheria's sands erupted in a cataclysmic explosion, the moon's surface fracturing under the ritual's collapse. Eldred and his surviving allies fled through a webway portal, their forms vanishing into the ether. Ynnead stirred but remained unawakened, the Death Watch's intervention a costly blow to the Eldar's plans. Though the psychic ripples of their failure echoed far beyond Coheria, heralding a greater doom. Chapter 1. Commorragh. In the shadowed heart of Commorragh, the Crucible arena pulsed with screams of agony and ecstasy, drawing the dark Eldar elite to sate their soul hunger against the relentless pull of Slaanesh, the chaos deity born of their ancient sins. The witch cult of strife, led by Lilith Hesperax, Queen of Knives, orchestrated spectacles of unparalleled slaughter. The arena's million seats filled with spectators revelling in the bloodshed. From the shattered world of Valador, ravaged by tyrannid swarms and obliterated by the Fireheart's apocalyptic force, the cult harvested bioforms, bred in shadowed vats to fuel their gruesome games, a grim testament to their pursuit of suffering, to stave off the Dark Prince's hunger. On the night of Revelations, Lilith unleashed the Tyranids, their rending claws and gnashing maws igniting a frenzy in the stands, the air thick with the crowd's bloodlust. Yet the true lure was Yvraine, the daughter of Shades, a creature that had walked many paths in her life, from Corsair to Craftworlder. She, of Biel-Tan, was now under the patronage of Lady Malice, Archon of the Cabal of the Poisoned Tongue. Yvraine's shifts from poised elegance to savage violence had captivated Commorragh's elite, her fame drawing whispers of a challenge to Lilith, a death sentence that piqued the interests of the Harlequins, their masked forms lurking among the spectators. The arena's crystalline sands bore witness to relentless carnage. Slaith mercenaries, their serpentine bodies glistening with venom, tore through Denorian-clawed fiends with brutal efficiency, their forearms wielding blades that dripped with ichor. Homunculi of the Coven of the 13 Scars unleashed grotesque flesh sculptures, their tortured forms shrieking as they fell, and captured space marines, stripped of armour and armed with crude knives, felled 13 witches in a defiant stand before Hellions descended, their skyboards shrieking as they cut the transhumans down, their blood soaking the sand in a grim offering to the crowd's delight. The Space Marines' resilience, though fleeting, stood as a testament to human defiance against the Xenos' cruelty. As the crowd's roars reached a fever pitch, a towering hive tyrant charged Yvraine, its carapace a wall of glistening menace, its psychic presence a dull roar in the arena's psychic haze. Yvraine cast aside her ceremonial skirts, revealing lithe armour underneath, her blood brides fanning out in a deadly crescent, their razor flails and shard nets glinting under the arena's blinding lights. With her husk blade, its edge humming with unnatural power, she dispatched free guard beasts, their forms crumbling to arid ash under its touch. Vaulting over the tyrant's thrashing limbs with acrobatic grace, she drove a blade into its brain sac. The creature's psychic scream echoed as she plunged her husk blade into its midsection, reducing the beast to a pile of dust that scattered across the sands. As the crowd screamed for Yvraine, Lilith Hesperex entered the arena. Her twin blades immediately severing a lictor's face in a spray of ichor that glistened like oil. She thrust at Yvraine, who parried with preternatural grace, their duel a dance of lethal precision, Lilith's cold, calculated strikes clashing with Yvraine's fiery rage, each blow a spectacle that drove the crowd to ecstasy. High above, in Astrobal Vect's floating fortress, a holographic projection of the Crucible shimmered, its soul relays amplifying the arena's agony to feed the Dark City's elite. Vect, Supreme Overlord, sat beside Urian Rakath, the homunculus's grotesque form twitching as he rasped, "This is quite the spectacle." Vect, his eyes gleaming with predatory calculation, replied, "She is quite interesting, this Yvraine, and apparently one to watch." Veilwalker, a harlequin seer cloaked in shimmering light, materialized beside him, her voice a melodic whisper. "I spoke only the truth. She must fall, the better to rise. The spectre's echo would not lie." Vect's voice dripped with scorn. "If it is Imriam's spectre you speak of, Veilwalker, he died upon Coheria." Veilwalker countered, her tone unyielding. "And by doing so, join not with Kagarak, but the Whispering God." Vect scoffed, his patience thinning. "The Ynnead is a myth, nothing more. Speak no more to me of your delusions. What fool would plan to defeat their enemy by dying forever themselves?" Down below in the arena, Yvraine's huskblade slashed Lilith's forearm, drawing a thin line of blood that glistened under the lights. A calculated ploy to enthrall the crowd. Yvraine's fist struck Lilith's face, sparking a grimace that escalated the duel into a frenzy of blades, their movements a blur of deadly artistry. Lilith manoeuvred Yvraine toward a pile of tyrannic corpses, where a lictor's spasming claw unbalanced her, allowing Lilith's blade to pierce her sternum with surgical precision. Yvraine concealed the wound, her resolve unbroken, felling Hormagaunts and Hellions alike with sweeping strikes, her blade fan a storm of death as foes swooped in. A Commorragh priestess, her eyes burning with fanatical zeal, attacked with a flurry of poison needles, severing Yvraine's hand in a spray of blood that mingled with the arena's crimson sands. Yvraine, undeterred, bit the priestess's face, her teeth sinking into flesh as she choked her foe in a savage death grip. Both collapsed in a tangle of limbs, their blood pooling beneath them. A blinding starburst erupted, consuming the arena in a flare of white light. Yvraine awoke, her eyes milk white. The voice of Ynnead whispering in her mind, "Daughter." Crackling energy surged from her, withering spectators into skeletal husks, their screams silenced as their souls fed her growing power. Her wounds knit together, the severed hand reforming as a crystalline gauntlet that pulsed with eldritch light. Lilith, her smile glinting with cold amusement, vaulted onto a Reaver jetbike, its energy shrieking as she fled the arena, leaving Yvraine as the Crucible's new herald of chaos, her transformation a beacon of upheaval in Commorragh's shadowed heart. High above the Crucible's blood-soaked stands, Astrobal Vec's colossal pyramid ascended, its grav engines thrumming, a visceral pulse that shook the air as the Supreme Overlord steered towards the core spur district, his instincts sensing the chaos unleashed by Yvraine's rebirth might be the end of him. Sleek knifecraft peeled from the pyramid's hull, slicing silently toward the arena's heart to quell the upheaval that threatened Commorragh's delicate balance in the webway. Yvraine stirred from her deathly apotheosis, the crystalline sands quaking beneath her feet, the metaphysical shock of her transformation rippling through the dark city's foundations. Her surviving blood brides rallied around her, in awe of her rebirth, their faces etched with determination to protect their leader. Cabalite Trueborn, elite warriors clad in ornate armour, and incubi, their claves gleaming with murderous intent, vaulted the arena's bladed walls, their insignias flashing as they advanced to hunt Yvraine, whose eldritch power had slain hundreds of Commorragh's finest. Yvraine, quick as a serpent, dodged a volley of poison-tipped needles, their barbs glinting under the arena's blinding lights, and cartwheeled over a searing dark lance beam, its energy crackling with destructive force. She took cover behind a lumbering Tyrannofex, its iron-hard carapace shuddering as it spewed flesh-eating beetles into the screaming crowds. A grotesque spectacle that underscored Commorragh's depravity. The Trueborn and Incubi, artisans of murder who typically shunned the arena's displays to conceal their prowess, now broke tradition to pursue Yvraine, their blades promising swift retribution for this anarchy. Her actions had not only culled the city's elite, but destabilized the district, drawing the homunculized torturer's gaze, eager to dissect her in their gruesome laboratories, to find out what she was. The Blood Brides charged, their shard nets and razor flails clashing with the incubi's two-handed claves in a whirlwind of blades, blood arcing in graceful sprays across the sands. The incubi's dense armour thwarted most strikes, while the Blood Bride's preternatural speed kept them elusively away from their blades, creating a deadly stalemate. The balance shattered when Claviex leaders triggered their bloodstones, unleashing waves of psychic agony that staggered the Blood Brides, their bodies writhing under the assault. The incubi, moving with rehearsed precision, slew a score in seconds, their claves reaping lives with merciless efficiency, as the Trueborn closed in for the slaughter. Yvraine's mind reeled, each death amplifying the eldritch pressure within her, the souls of the fallen screaming in her consciousness. The arena's lights dimmed to a ghostly twilight, the witches' vibrant outfits leached of colour. The arcs of blood that sprayed everywhere turned black in a surreal monochrome haze. "The souls of the fallen cry out," she spat, unbidden words escaping her lips as a gale of energy surged from her core, clearing her mind with a youthful vigour that burned like fire. Vaulting from the Tyrannofex's shadow, Yvraine seized her huskblade, now radiant with otherworldly power, its resonance humming in her crystalline gauntleted hand. Around her lay a grim tableau. Blood brides, incubi, and trueborn strewn across the sands, fallen without visible wounds, a stark testament to her newfound might. She led her surviving blood brides toward the arena's edge, her huskblade and blade fan flashing in a storm of death, carving through the fleeing Drukhari with relentless fury. A wall of Cabalites barred her path, their splinter rifles raised. But her anguished cry unleashed an unseen force, ripping many from their feet as if by spectral hands. The survivors fled, their faces twisted in fear of the forbidden psychic arts that risked drawing Slanesh's gaze and triggering a catastrophic disjunction, a calamity now erupting beneath Commorragh's towering spires. A Gyrabat hellion swooped in, his skyboard shrieking, his glaive aimed at Yvraine's heart. She stepped beneath the strike, impaling him with her huskblade, reducing his form to glowing embers that scattered across the sands, his soul's anguished howl echoing in her mind, unclaimed by Slanesh. A fleeting pang of empathy stirred within her, a sensation alien to Commorragh's cruelty. But then the clatter of armoured footsteps broke this reverie. 2 incubi attacked, their claves whistling within a finger's breadth of her flesh. Yvraine parried one, redirecting its blade into the other's chest, then landed a kick and elbow to gain breathing room. 6 more incubi encircled her, their ritual stances promising death, their horned helms gleaming with menace. Raising her huskblade, she beckoned them defiantly, her eyes blazing with unnatural resolve. Then a crimson armour warrior intervened. His greatsword beheaded 2 incubi in a single stroke, the blade cleaving a third from waist to shoulder in a spray of blood. His movements mirrored Yvraine's with uncanny precision, a shadow of her own deadly grace. Seizing the fallen Gyrabat's skyboard, Yvraine kicked another incubus with neck-breaking force, the crunch of bone echoing as she fired the skyboard's splinter pod, felling a 5th with a hail of monomolecular shards. The Crimson Warrior dispatched the 6th, his blade splitting the incubus from neck to groin, and the remaining foes fled into the shadows. As they neared the arena's egress, the warrior saluted, his incubi allies mirroring the gesture with preferred blades, their swords level with their horned helms. "More sellswords," Yvraine spat, shaking her head dismissively as she strode toward the exit. "I do not need the protection of a male," Yvraine snarled, leaning back to avoid a slashing blade vein, before flicking her stiletto from her blade fan into a rider's neck as Vect's reavers swooped in for the kill, their jet bikes painted in the cabal of the Black Heart's colours. The Crimson Warrior lunged, lancing his blade tip into a reaver's chest as the rider swooped by. It spiralled out of control before smashing into the arena's balustrade. Spinning on his heel, he ducked and thrust his greatsword upward through another reaver passing overhead, the jet bike exploding in a shower of sparks. Yvraine's eyes narrowed, her suspicion sharpened at his familiar style. "You have copied my sword form well," she said, her voice edged with accusation. "On the contrary, girl," the warrior replied, his tone carrying the crisp inflection of a noble house, stirring a flicker of memory in Yvraine's mind. "You fight well, impostor," she countered, her defiance unwavering. "I may let you live." "I will take your blade as tribute in memory of the true exarch Larian," he responded, his voice steady. "Although I have sought quite another since I strode Coheria's crystal sands. This mortal blade I shall not relinquish, not yet. Look to your own sword. It is Cadia, blessed by Ynnead, just as you are blessed in turn, true child of the Aeldari." Yvraine plunged her husk blade into a swerving reaver, reducing the rider to embers that glowed briefly before fading, and demanded, "Ynnead? So it truly was the whispering god who appeared to me. Who are you to have such knowledge? Was it Lady Malice who sent you?" He answered, his words enigmatic. "I am simply called the Visage, for I cast aside my name long ago. But it would be very familiar to you, Yvraine of the Biel-Tan. Our paths join once more." Little did the two servants of the dead god know that Vect was correct in his instincts. Yvraine's rebirth, a spark ignited by Ynnead's stirring on Coheria, had unleashed a hyperspatial quake that was even now running through the foundations of the Dark City. A disjunction that shattered spires and collapsed entire districts in Commorragh's labyrinthine depths. Beneath the city, Cain's Gate, a sealed portal restraining ravenous demon hosts, burst open as its psychic nulls perished, unleashing thousands of cackling demons who tore through cabals, witch cults, and homunculi with gleeful slaughter. Vect, ever the schemer, had already fled to prepared havens, abandoning his rivals to bear the invasion's brunt, poised to reclaim the city once their resources were spent. Yvraine's party made her way through the chaos to Sec Miagra, a district teeming with outcasts and renegades. She carved her way through acquisitive wrecks with twisted limbs, half-real chimerae that flickered in and out of existence, and blood-spattered hordes of demonettes whose claws dripped with gore and other fluids. The Visage and his incubi intervened repeatedly, their claves flashing with lethal precision, tipping the balance in her favour. Eventually she reached the spine dock, a jagged forest of docking spines piercing the webway's veil. Yvraine sought her old allies aboard her old ship, the Lanathrial, her survival hinging on outpacing Vect's relentless pursuers, her actions marking her as an enemy of all Drukhari. Such was the devastation that this maelstrom of demonic ruin had caused. Chapter 2. The Webway. Yvraine, now reborn as Ynnead's chosen, joined her former corsair comrades aboard the ship Lanathrial. It surged from Commorragh's spined ports, its sleek hull catching the eerie solar winds of the Dark City's stolen suns. Astrobal Vect, however, was not to be denied, and his fury was relentless. He sent his shard craft in pursuit, their splinter cannons firing and demanding her surrender to the cabal of the Black Heart. The Corsairs, defiant, charted a desperate course toward a minor webway portal, too small for their capital ship, but their only hope of escape. The Lanathial's prow slammed into the gate's spined crescent, a greatsword forced into a dagger's sheath, unleashing a cascade of blinding explosions that tore through its hull. The crew was incinerated, the ship turned to a wreck, but as the hulk was pulled from the shattered gateway, Vect was enraged to discover that Yvraine and her motley company had escaped into the webway. Yvraine, with her blood brides, and the Visage and his incubi, darted through the translucent passageways, their forms a blur as they evaded Vect's shadowy agents, who pursued with relentless cunning. The webways' ribbed tunnels pulsed with lambent light, their hypnotic motion drawing the fugitives deeper, from wide arterial passageways to winding capillary tunnels that forced single-file travel. Unnatural angles and rune-sealed doors whispered of their intrusion, watched by unseen eyes that seemed to lurk in the shadows. To stray from the arterials risked encounters with Denorian fiends, their claws dripping with venom, emotion-eating medusae, their psychic hunger palpable, chimerae, predators flickering in and out of reality, or nests of Sight-Nuin, their insectoid forms a nightmare of the webway's forgotten reaches. A bizarre lilting song floated through the tunnels, its mocking tone fraying Yvraine's nerves, a haunting reminder of the webway's ruin since the Eldar's fall. Its broken spars, sealed only by Kagarakh's knowledge, or Commorragh raiders, lest they lead to the warp's horrors. Yvraine's company, barely 50 strong, pressed on, their steps shadowed by the song's eerie cadence. The Bloodbrides, their soul hunger gnawing, began to age, their once live forms showing faint signs of decay as they tested their blades, casting sly glances at one another. Without the sustenance of suffering, they risked becoming parched, ravening ghouls driven to feast on negative emotion, their beauty reduced to haggard ruin. A cruel, youthful voice laughed in Yvraine's mind, the echo of the Gaia-bat hellion she had slain, its soul preserved from Slanesh's grasp. This sparked a profound realization. If she could master this ability to harbour souls, she could free the Eldar from Waystones and the Infinity Circuit, offering salvation to both Dark Eldar and Craftworlders. Her conviction surged, silencing her fractious company as they ventured deeper into the webway's misty reaches, the song dogging their every step. The tunnels twisted into anarchic forms, spiralling paths where walls became ceilings, stairs of insubstantial shadow bearing their weight, revealing vistas of swirling cosmos and grotesque, laughing faces that blended into a scarring tableau. The Bloodbride's quarrels escalated. Etheria Napath's tirade against Vailea, the Talon's ancestry, met with surreal counterclaims, so imaginative they drew a rare smile from Yvraine, though the looming threat of their soul hunger underscored their dwindling time. The walls, glistening like flayed flesh, led to a dead-end portal, its warding runes smouldering as if burned out moments before. The skirling song grew louder, its mocking tone urging Yvraine through the shimmering quicksilver gate, her Bloodbrides at her heels. A demented scene greeted them, a nightmare from an insane artist's mind. 100 demonettes, handmaidens of Slanesh, danced with the corpses of Dark Eldar in the colours of Vex Cabal of the Black Art, their razored claws flaying flesh in a grotesque waltz. They moved to a maddening duet played on the thigh bones of ancient Eldar, the notes weaving a spell of torment. At the heart of the revel stood the mask of Slanesh, holding masks of tragedy and comedy on a long haft. Her presence, altered by her besotted sleef agent, Sasarasarin. Yvraine's stomach churned, the Hellions' panic screams ringing in her mind. A tall, stately demonette spun a spiralling pavane, her movements so entrancing that Yvraine could not look away. A suffocating apathy settled over her like a blanket, her eyelids drooping. Her company slumped, some sitting cross-legged, others lying on the pulsing tunnel floor, succumbing to an unnatural slumber curse. Vailea the Talon gave a plaintive cry, like a dying swan, before collapsing in a heap, their fate to become corpse puppets in a demonic revel. Suddenly, though, troop after troop of harlequin warrior dancers vaulted from the tunnel's ceiling, tumbling from clouds of glittering mist in sprays of luminescent diamonds, their jubilant cries shattering the trance. Yvraine felt a jolt of energy, her husk blade raised in greeting as she strode forward, decapitating a demonette, its form dissipating in a cloud of sickly pink mist. The mask, her grotesque face twisted with fury, sprang at unnatural speed toward the Visarch's incubi, who were gripped by the slumber curse still. The Visarch himself clutching his head as if in a migraine's throes. Yvraine fought the hissing she-fiends, her blade a blur, but could not reach her imperiled allies. As the mask dashed over a slumped incubi in black heart livery, his clave hooked her legs, toppling her. The warrior rose, laughing hollowly, his form shimmering as he sloughed off the illusion to reveal a live harlequin solitaire, walker of the path of the damned. The mask screamed in disbelief, slashing a claw at his midriff, but the solitaire, already moving, punched a monofilament wire into her neck before cartwheeling away, his greatcoat billowing behind him, landing in a sprinter's crouch. He launched forward like a living missile, darting from demonette to demonette, leaving explosions of purple ichor with each kill. Yvraine and her blood brides, freed from the curse, plunged into the fray, their blades flashing against the leering demonettes who charged with sadistic glee. Blood flew on both sides, the forces evenly matched until Yvraine took a shallow cut across her throat, the sting like fire, but not deep enough to kill. She spoke words of power, unbidden, and thin tendrils of grey mist seeped from her wound, sapping the strength from nearby demonettes, their unreal flesh turning lifeless grey. Seizing the opportunity, Yvraine pressed her assault, her husk blade a whirlwind of death. The harlequins, glamours woven by a shadow seer, turned demonettes upon each other, their claws slashing their own kin in confusion. The Visarch's incubi, shaking off the curse, reaped bloody vengeance with their claves, their strikes precise and lethal. The Slaneshi trap shattered, and the mask threw back her head, unleashing a horrendous scream that broke a section of the webway wall. A gale of psychic emanations roared through, swirling into a tornado that carried the demonettes and their queen away in moments. Yvraine's group fought to keep their footing, embedding blades and fingers in the psychoplastic crystal walls. The solitaire strode through the gale as if it were a summer breeze, his fingers tracing a complex warding rune over the breach, sealing it with a flicker of light. The Shadowseer turned the ebbing gale into a harmless, sparkling mist, its motes drifting like stars. Yvraine's company, diminished but alive, regrouped, their breath ragged from the minute-long altercation. The solitaire, sensing a potent destiny in Yvraine, chose to remain as her guide after a brief exchange with his fellows, who vanished into the webway's depths to seek a famed warrior matriarch, their role yet to unfold. Yvraine, marked by Ynnead's touch, pressed deeper into the labyrinth. Her path, a spark of hope amidst the chaos. Her survival, a testament to her growing power. Chapter 3. Biel-Tan. The webway's labyrinthine tunnels stretched endlessly before Yvraine and her company, their forms a blur as they darted through translucent passageways, pulsing with an eerie lambent glow. Guided by the solitaire, a harlequin whose silent grace masked a deadly prowess honed on the path of the damned, they ventured toward a destination deep within the realm humanity called Ultima Segmentum. There lay Biel-Tan, a craftworld revered as a jewel in the shattered crown of the Eldar's lost empire, its crystalline domes and elegant spires glowing with the promise of ancient glory. Known as the rebirth of ancient days, its warriors were fierce and proud. The craftworld cast itself as the guardian of the Maiden Worlds, those primeval planets where Exodite Eldar lived in harmony with their environment, their souls merging with the world spirits at the planet's cores upon death. The Biel-Tani clung to their vision of these worlds as seeds for a new Aeldari dominion, a dream many craftworlders deemed delusional, the resources and numbers required and long consumed by the fall's aftermath. Yet Biel-Tan's warriors held their convictions like a wounded warrior grips a sword, unyielding despite the odds. Yvraine, the daughter of Shades, was no stranger to Biel-Tan's radiant halls. Raised beneath its glowing domes, she was steeped in the craftworld's traditions. Her early years spent walking the path of the performer. Her acrobatics, a mesmerizing blend of grace and precision, captivated high society and the wanderers of Biel-Tan's abandoned zones, where forgotten spires whispered of a lost empire. As her spirit grew restless, her displays turned fierce, laced with a violence that mirrored her headstrong nature. When the Avatar of Cain, the craftworld's bloody-handed god, stirred during the invasion of Gnosis Prime, Yvraine embraced the path of the warrior, training as a dire avenger under Exarch Larian Starspeaker of the Silvered Blade Shrine, whose deadly artistry was renowned. Years passed, her blade spilling blood in Biel-Tan's Swordwind, a war host famed for its relentless assaults. Yet the carnage failed to sate her yearning for deeper truths. She walked the path of the warlock, honing her psychic gifts while fighting in Biel-Tan's armies. But this esoteric path could not hold her. Forsaking the craftworld, she became an outcast, then a corsair admiral, whose hubris sparked a mutiny, leading her to Commorragh's blood-soaked arenas. Despite her wanderings, Biel-Tan remained a lodestone in her heart, and now, guided by the solitaire's silent steps, her prodigal return drew near. The Harlequins of the Mask of the Midnight Sorrow, leagues ahead of Yvraine's vanguard, hastened through the webway to prepare Biel-Tan for her arrival. Their reputation as self-serving thieves, earned by pilfering sacred relics like Aisha's jewels, cast a shadow, yet their message carried a weight that demanded attention. Months prior, within Ulthwe's vaults of black wraithbone, High Farseer Eldrad Ulthran had foreseen Yvraine's rise as the daughter of Shades, a figure central to Ynnead's ascension. Tracing the ripples of fate from Coheria's failed ritual, he divined her as the key to challenging Slaaneish's curse. Her spiritual bond with Biel-Tan's ruling casts a catalyst for a new destiny. His visions revealed a nexus point, the rune of the Night Maiden, a portent of sacrifice for progress. Sending a psychic signal across the webway, Eldrad entrusted the Midnight Sorrow to ensure Yvraine's safe arrival, their task to untangle fate's strands for a greater purpose, a silken noose to strangle Slaanesh. The Harlequins breached Biel-Tan through a latter portal, their unheralded arrival flouting the craftworld's unwritten codes, a provocation that stirred tension. In a chamber of crystalline roses, where light refracted in dazzling arrays, Ildreski Dreamspear, the Harlequin of the Midnight Sorrow, met Autarch Meleniel. Dreamspear's elaborate bow, arms wide, masked a weary edge, while Meleniel's stylized salute, flanked by dire avengers with shuriken catapults held lightly, carried a taut formality. Their exchange was a dance of veiled accusations. Millennial, noting the Harlequins' unorthodox arrival as akin to the Void Zephyr, taking and leaving as they pleased, while Dreamspear countered that an armed escort was an uncommon welcome for ambassadors. Millennial hinted at Kagarak's theft of Aisha's jewels as a provocative act, to which Dreamspear suggested it was a desperate bid for victory, warning that lethal mistakes in war could lead to tragedy. When Millennial pressed about prophecies concerning Ynnead, Dreamspear confirmed their message concerned all Eldar, particularly Biel-Tan, revealing that the child of she who thirsts already knew of the daughter of shades. Millennial accused them of risking doom to force Biel-Tan's hand, but Dreamspear, his mask shifting to Kane's coal-eyed visage, clarified that Slanesh's forces targeted a threshold world, not the Craftworld directly. Presenting a rune, he revealed Ursulia as the demon's ingress point. Millennial, his expression hardening, ordered the sword wind mobilized. The Harlequin's warning, born of Eldred's foresight, carried dire import. High Farseer Lathriel's own runic divinations aligned with the Harlequin's message, and revealed a fork in Biel-Tan's destiny. One path led to blazing fire, the Rana Dandra, the Eldar's end of days. The other to a darkened veil and a mourning bell. A path of sacrifice, but potential salvation. Yvraine, the daughter of shades, was central. Her deathly powers, manifested against demonettes in the webway, confirmed Eldrad's prophecy. The Craftworld's wards, long thought impervious, were now vulnerable amid Empyrean tempests raging across Ultima Segmentum. The Mask of Slanesh, aware of Yvraine's significance, had uncovered a long-sealed webway tunnel from Biel-Tan's abandoned extremities to the maiden world Ursulia, a path for a demonic incursion that could reduce the Craftworld to ashes. Millennial mobilized the Swordwind, its aspect warriors, dire avengers, howling banshees and striking scorpions, readying their blades and shuriken weapons. Lathriel's visions, entwined with the runes of Slanesh and Biel-Tan, underscored Yvraine's role as a catalyst, her arrival a spark to ignite the Craftworld's struggling ambition and plunge it into ruin. Ursulia. Once a breathtaking utopia of verdant foliage and shimmering waters, the maiden world of Ursulia stood as a haven in the coreward sectors of Ultima Segmentum. Its lush landscapes, tended by Exodite Eldar, who lived in harmony with the planet's world spirit, reflected the ancient glory of the Aeldari. Yet the emergence of warp storms transformed Ursulia into a nightmarish realm. Its forests turned into tangled wildernesses of sentient plants, their branches oozing mind poison that seared the psyche. Jagged fungi, pulsing with eerie light, released clouds of hallucinogenic gas, twisting perceptions into delusions. Grotesque saurian beasts, their hides bristling with countless eyes and mouths from snout to tail, roamed the wilds, their presence a mockery of nature. Psychic storms tore across ruined Eldar settlements, unleashing ectoplasmic rain that burned the flesh, winds screaming with banshee fury, and crackling empiric lightning that rent the earth. These forces left utter devastation, tainting both the landscape and the world spirit with an indelible corruption, a wound from which recovery seemed impossible. It was Warp Storm Balamet that had twisted Ursulia beyond recognition, its beauty ravaged by chaotic energies. To descend through its silver cloud banks was to feel a profound sadness. The soul, weighed down by the loss of this once glorious haven. Crimson glass replaced cascading waterfalls. The rolling dales became skull-strewn wastelands, littered with the bones of fallen Exodites. In the planet's valleys, the moss-strewn henge, known as the Obsidian Gate, a sealed webway route to Biel-Tan, stood silent, its wards closed millennia ago to thwart invasion. Though vindicated by Ersulia's many wars, the gate's arcane seals could, in theory, be breached by malevolent force, a possibility the Biel-Tani would die to prevent. The Swordwind of Biel-Tan, 1,000 warriors strong, descended upon Ersulia, their hearts heavy with the planet's ruin. Rangers, their faces hardened under hooded cloaks, scoured the twisted forests for Exodite survivors, finding only death's grim harvest. The planet had suffered beyond comprehension, its world spirit tainted by the warp's touch. Autarch Millennial, his strategic mind honed by centuries of war, directed the Swordwind to aerial ambush points. Their falcon and wave serpent skimmers gliding through the storm-racked skies in cloud strike formation, invisible as the blade unseen. Aspect warriors, their war masks donned, embodied Cain's focused killers, their emotions suppressed until battle's end. Rain hammered down, a tempest brewing with an unnatural keening wind, the air thick with ozone, and an impending sense of doom. The warriors felt they had already lost. Their millennia-long vigil over Ersulia against orcs, Thrud, Imperials, and dark Eldar raids, undone by the Chaos Tempest's sudden fury. What began as a rescue mission turned to vengeance, a desperate bid to prevent Biel-Tan's fall. The Mask of Slaanesh, her ambition fueled by Yvraine's significance as the daughter of Shades, orchestrated a demonic invasion of Ersulia, not to conquer, but to breach the Obsidian Gate and reach Biel-Tan before her. Her promenade of excess, demonettes, seekers, charioteers and hellflayers joined a grand battalion of cornate demons, an uneasy alliance forged by her cunning. The rivalry between Slaanesh and Khorne, marked by mutual contempt, saw the Mask's seductive wiles exploit the pride of Khorne's lords, binding them to her cause. Skarbrand the Exile, a bloodthirster cast out for challenging Khorne, was her key. His rage, raw and all-consuming, could shatter the gate's wards. The Mask, weaving a wager of slaughter, lured Skarbrand with tales of her own exile, stoking his fury for a contest to claim Eldar lives on Ersulia. Within a week their combined host, numbering hundreds of thousands, trod Ersulia's peaty loam, their champions vying to outdo each other in carnage. Bursting from the eye of a psychic storm, they overwhelmed the Exodites, whose megasaurs and dragon knight charges fell before the demonic tide. By the time the Swordwind arrived, the Exodites were eradicated, demons cavorting amidst the ruins, counting kills or bickering over supremacy. The Mask, her seeker parties locating the Obsidian Gate above Greenlush Valley, coordinated her assaults with a choreographer's artistry, anticipating the Biel-Tani's haste would aid her breach. Aboard his wave serpent, Millennial confronted Lathriel's ghostly apparition, his voice sharp. "Why did you not foresee this, sister?" Lathriel admitted the rune's future shifted too swiftly, even for Eldrad, due to a galactic psychic event, likely Ynnead's stirring. Millennial, bitter, noted salvation came too late for Ersulia, fearing for Biel-Tan. Lathriel urged turning chaos against itself, but Millennial, his tone clipped, declared, "This is the hour of the blade." Over a jade lake tinged with blood, he ordered the Swordwind's assault. Engines of Val to the northwest, Windriders mirroring northeast, falcons forming the pyramid's tip, the Aspect Warriors, the Serpent's Coil. The battle would test Biel-Tan's resolve. The death toll a grim testament to their struggle to protect the Obsidian Gate and thwart the Mask's ambition. A cacophony of howls, cries and screams heralded the demon hordes of Slaanesh and Khorne as they surged through Ursulia's twisted forests, their blades gripped tight, snarling smiles baring pointed teeth. Driven by a cruel frenzy, they cast aside jibes to prove their supremacy to one another, scouring the corrupted Thornwoods for Eldar lives to claim. The psychic tempest, its roiling energies lashing the planet, blinded them to the Craftworld forces descending through the silver clouds. Only the Mask of Slaanesh, her coal-black eyes glinting, watched the heavens, her trap meticulously laid. She knew Biel-Tan's swordwind would strike with pitiless fury, their attack unwittingly triggering her devastating counterstroke. Slaanesh revelled in excess, delighting in the spill of vital fluids, while Khorne drew power from slaughter, heedless of whether it was foe or follower. Blood was blood, and Ursulia's valleys would drown in it. Autarch Meleniel's command unleashed the sword wind's assault, a sudden and devastating strike from the heavens. At his word, grav tanks dived, their pulse lasers and plasma weapons blazing in a hail of light that mingled with ectoplasmic rain. Explosions tore through the forest canopies, blasting grotesque demonic forms skyward, their warped anatomies sundered. The Eldar targeted the heralds, the ornamented leaders of the demon throngs, employing their practiced assassination strategy to disrupt the enemy's cohesion. Within seconds, dozens of heralds fell, their ethereal forms shredded by shuriken volleys and laser fire, destabilizing the chaotic hordes. Meleniel, in mere minutes, devised a multifaceted assault, marshalling his war hosts to encircle the demon bands nearest the Obsidian Gate, their movements precise despite the storm's fury. The Edrith in Falco, the flight of falcons, led the charge, tight squadrons of falcon grav tanks veering through the hammering rain to engage soul grinders, demonic engines smashing through corrupted foliage. The soul grinders' harvester cannons spat chain explosions, but the Eldar's speed rendered their fire ineffective, the surprise attack robbing them of accuracy. At the forefront, the Crimson Death, two squadrons of nightshade interceptors gleamed like polished rubies, weaving with raptor-like grace. One craft fell to a lucky shot, its psychoplastic wreckage spiralling into the jungle. But the others executed barrel rolls and steep dives, their bright lances stabbing pinpoint death into the soul grinders. Mimicking Cain's blinding of the white worm Organathea, their lasers sheared heads from iron-skinned monstrosities, unbinding their demonic animus into the psychic storm. The Crimson Death vanished into the clouds, their wake a spiral of mist. The demons' frustrated roars shook the foliage as their anti-air firepower faltered. Meleniel's cloud strike squadrons, their hollow fields blending with the cloud banks, descended unseen. Fire prisms unleashing lancing beams that blasted craters into demonic riders atop brass-bound juggernauts. The crystal-focused lasers left steaming edges and bubbling corpse stuff, reduced to brimstone and hot brass. Scarbrand, the exiled bloodthirster, plummeted from the warp in a flaming ball, drawn by the carnage. His thunderous impact shattered Eldar trees, scarlet fires blazing in his wake. Swinging his twin axes, slaughter and carnage, he carved through lesser demons, his rage a beacon for the Eldar gunners. Grav tank beams lanced into him, but they only fueled his fury, his roars shaking the green lush valley. As the grav tanks struck from above, Wind Rider jet bikes roared into the valley's mouth, their shuriken catapults unleashing a hurricane of razor-edged discs that sliced through plant and demon alike. The war for Ursulia raged anew. The sword wind's disciplined fury, clashing with the demon's frenzied slaughter. The obsidian gate's fate, hanging in the balance, as the psychic tempest roared. The Wind Rider host, adept at striking with blistering speed, prepared to peel off and assault further down the demonic lines, their jet bikes humming through Ursulia's twisted forests. Against mortal foes, their swiftness would have prevailed, but the demons of Slaanesh were no ordinary enemies. From the massed ranks of demonettes, a flock of seekers, long-limbed bipedal steeds with bejewelled riders, burst forth, shrilling and hooting as they matched the jet bike's pace. Their ropey tongues lashed out, yanking Eldar from their saddles, while seeker chariots, festooned with spinning scythe blades, followed close behind, slashing dazed wind riders into ribbons, their body parts strewn across the corrupted loam. Autarch Meliniel monitored from his Gravcraft's passenger bay. He ordered his elite, Thalian Axeam, the coiled serpent, into the fray. Wave serpents disgorged hundreds of aspect warriors, their vibrant armour crimson, sapphire and emerald, blazing against the sickly hues of Ursulia's warped forests. Swooping hawks led the assault, darting from blue-grey clouds, their armour blending with the storm until they seemed mere flickers at vision's edge. From thigh holsters they dispensed grenades, falling like acorns, erupting into crackling plasmaspheres among cornate demons. Red-skinned fiends collided, discorporeating in bursts of white fire, while lasblaster volleys reaped even more. As cornate cannons lumbered up a ridge to retaliate, the hawks vanished, replaced by warp spiders materializing silently behind the batteries. Their monofilament wires sliced through demon flesh and hell-forged brass, then vanished in a crackle of unlight. Slaaneshi demonettes charged, hissing with glee, targeting the warp spiders. A fusillade of monofilament wire carved the first wave into bloodless chunks, but a second band, slinking through spiked trees, dropped shrieking from above, tearing spiders apart. The survivors jumped, reappearing 100 feet away, leaving the demonettes confused. Dark Reapers, stationed in Arboreal Palace's walkway, unleashed missiles, their detonations shattering iron-hard fungi and dozens of demonettes. A new Slaaneshi assault followed, demonic cavalry and chariots racing through ectoplasmic mist. Melinial countered, the Fedhain Sam Zarakain, a mounted assault. Dire Avengers disembarked, their shuriken catapults unleashing a storm of monomolecular discs, shredding seekers with expert precision. The Shrine's Exarch duelled surviving riders, parrying snake-fast blows with force shields before thrusting with power spears. Fire dragons, emerging from wave serpents' vaporized chariots with fusion guns, molten ichor hissing. A lone Allures, leaping from a burning chariot, vaulted into the Dark Reapers, her claws claiming 4 before a kick sent her into the fires below. At the Obsidian Gate, cornate bloodletters massacred Eldar rangers, then charged down the forested slope in growing warbands. Melinial's warriors fell back to their transports, but the mask, perched atop the gate, hissed in frustration, needing the Eldar to contest the henge. Skarbrand, hacking through demonettes in a fiery rage, ignored the gate, drawn to the valley's carnage. The mask's charioteers returned, tossing 3 warlock corpses to her. She devoured their spirit stones, her piercing cry drawing Eldar fire. Skarbrand's axes smashed a grav tank, its wreckage igniting the cliff, as demons fell upon stunned aspect warriors. Shining spears baited the hordes away with precise strikes. Melinial, enraged by the mask's desecration, abandoned his measured plan, ordering an all-out assault on the gate where the mask and Skarbrand stood. Sunstorm squadrons targeted Skarbrand, their macro beams burning into him, his flesh sizzling as he roared. The mask dodged Ranger sniper fire, her soul-stuffed resilience defying death. Skarbrand, incensed by his meagre kill tally, lashed at her, his axes shattering the gate's lintel, ripping open the webway portal. The mask dived through, her demonettes flooding after in a river of white flesh. Millennial, horror-struck, sent a psychic alarm to Lathriel, warning of Biel-Tan's peril. The Swordwind focused on the gate, their assaults failing to fell Skarbrand, who now hunted Slaaneshi demons, realizing the mask's deception. The battle raged on, bloodletters and skullcrushers charging the gate, outnumbering the Eldar 5-1. Millennial, seeing defeat, ordered the Sunstorm squadrons to fire on the gate itself, its runes vulnerable. Macro beams obliterated demons, the stone exploding in a titanic boom. The Eldar withdrew to their grav vehicles, fleeing to warn Biel-Tan and hopefully defend it. The gate's destruction a desperate bid to stem the demonic tide now flooding through the webway. Chapter 4. The Heart of the Craftworld. The air aboard Craftworld Biel-Tan thrummed with a palpable aggression, a rising urge to kill coursing through every soul. The Avatar of Ynnead stirred, his awakening of fire in the veins of the Biel-Tani, their warlike spirit roused to fever pitch. Autarch Millennial's psychic warning, relayed through his link with Farseer Lathriel, had galvanized the Craftworld into a state of urgent readiness. A host of Slaaneshi demons, shadowed by Khorne's baying killers, surged through the webway from Ursulia, threatening invasion. Though a single swift pathway linked Biel-Tan to Ursulia, dozens of smaller offshoots branched to portals across the Craftworld. A breach in any could buckle the world ship's wraithbone frame, dooming it to a slow metaphysical death. Lathriel and the Seer Council sealed all webway gates save the vast arterial portal at the Craftworld's stern, a gateway for its mightiest invasions. Guarded by a third of Biel-Tan's armada, it stood ready to be destroyed if demons emerged. A drastic measure to save the Craftworld from annihilation. Although they could have just closed it. The mask's attack, however, was insidious. A band of rangers sent by Millennial to monitor the demons flickered through the stern portal and docked their craft beneath the gateway dome's irising roof. Unseen, the mask clung to the ship's underside, her demonic nature unfazed by the void's cold or lack of air, sustained by the Empyrean's rage. Slipping past the armed cordon, she drifted into the Craftworld like a pearl diver, her presence a venomous lure. Those who met her gaze fell to their darkest obsessions, their faces twisting into rictuses of glee as she caressed them with her claws, crooning an infernal summons. One by one, the enthralled Eldar were possessed, their flesh transmuting into demonettes, handmaidens of the mask's will. Her enrapturing dance carried her unhindered to Biel-Tan's heart, the iron chamber where the Avatar's throne sat empty. The god, having stirred and marched to war. The mask chuckled, settling primly on the throne, to summon more of her kind. A shrine of howling banshees led by Farseer Ynnead, whose runes revealed the intrusion, charged screaming into the throne room, blades raised. The first banshees, meeting the mask's gaze, fell to her sway, kneeling in supplication. Ynnead's ghost helm burned with clashing psychic energies, forcing her to remove it. One glance, and she too succumbed. A piercing scream split the chamber. Not the mask's mockery, but the cry of Jane Zar, Phoenix Lord, sent by the Harlequins to intercept her. Her long, hafted blade decapitated demonettes with each stride. The mask leapt, claws outstretched, but Jainzar's polearm impaled her against the iron ceiling. Too late. The mask's rune-inscribed claws had breached the Infinity Circuit's sanctity, her handmaidens flooding in, overwhelming its defences and pushing Biel-Tan to the brink. At the Ursulian rune gate, a roaring psychic explosion shook the Craftworld as Skarbrand, the scarred bloodthirster, burst forth, 100 red-skinned demons at his heels. Psychoplastic shattered for half a mile around it. Lathriel, suppressing her rage, signalled 6 shrines of aspect warriors from concealed pillars. Lasers, shuriken fire and melter beams obliterated the leading demons, but Skarbrand struck repeatedly and only grew larger, hewing, striking scorpions apart with his axes. The Avatar charged, hurling the Suen Deale spear, while Lathriel's psychic bolt distracted the beast. The spear sank deep, sizzling demon flesh, but Skarbrand fought on, axes hacking banshees and scorpions apart. The Avatar parried an axe, delivering a thunderous uppercut, then lifted Skarbrand by the embedded spear, impaling him further. The bloodthirster's flaming axes carved grievous wounds, flames of rage consuming both. Lesser demons and aspect warriors burned to ash in the conflagration. Lathriel, racing into the fray, cast 3 runes of warding, sealing the gate. Glancing back, she saw only flames and molten iron, the Avatar's fate uncertain, as Biel-Tan teetered on the edge of ruin. The Infinity Circuit, the Wraithbone core threading through Craftworld Biel-Tan like a living skeleton, served as a sacred haven for the souls of its dead, a crystalline limbo, guarded by teleporting warp spiders with their psychocrystalline forms. Yet the mask's demonic infestation overwhelmed even these defenders. The Craftworld, groaning as if alive, a tortured scream haunting the edge of hearing. Slaneshi demons devoured ancient spirits. Blood ran like rivers between the spires and colonnades of the world ship's domes, as battles erupted between Eldar defenders and the invaders. Forewarned by Autarch Meleniel and led by Phoenix Lord Jainzar, the Biel-Tani quarantined and banished the demons of Khorne and Slanesh with ruthless precision, their war masks channeling Kane's focus. No cheers followed. Each cleared section brought only grim silence. The Craftworld's violation a wound too deep for celebration. Its fate, teetering on the edge of calamity. Into this unfolding tragedy stepped Yvraine. Guided by the Solitaire through the Webway Gate, Farseer Lathriel was resealing. Held at spear point by a shrine of shining spears, they were escorted to the Craftworld's council. There, Commorragh armed companions, blood brides and incubi, drawing weary glares. The Biel-Tani, reeling from invasion, distrusted these potential foes. When demonettes sprinted from a ruined theatre's shadows, hell-bent on Yvraine, the council's warriors cut down the first wave, but many fell to slashing talons. Yvraine, glowing with soul power, stretched out her arms, grey mist pouring from her mouth to envelop the fiends. A keening wail, like 1,000 anguished ghosts, filled the chamber. And when the mist cleared, the demons were gone, banished by her will. The parley that followed was tense but vital. Lathriel, recalling Yvraine's childhood dances, was struck by her transformation. Her milk-white eyes and strange manner unsettling. Her dark city allies a source of suspicion. Yet time pressed. The Craftworld faced ruin. Lathriel led Yvraine's group to the Dome of Seeing for an emergency council, where debate raged over the crumbling Infinity Circuit. Spirit seers laboured to transfer untainted souls into wraith constructs, but the demon taint spread faster, turning wraithbone to grey ash. If unchecked, Biel-Tan would disintegrate. Yvraine's unheralded speech sparked outrage. Autarchs scorned her return after forsaking their ways, questioning her dark city ties and claims of destiny. Lathriel's defence silenced them, suggesting Yvraine was the opener of the Seventh Way, the Casadorus' prophesied nemesis of Slaanesh. Her demon-banishing power proof of this. Hatred, fear, confusion, and hope radiated from the council, few daring to believe in salvation. Jainzar, her blade dripping with demonic ichor, strode to the dome's centre, her voice clear. "This one speaks with many voices. She is our salvation. Listen well." Chapter 5. The Birth of the Incarn. In the Dome of Seeing, flanked by statues of mythological heroes, Yvraine stood with a visage silent beside her, addressing Biel-Tan's assembled masses. Her voice shifted with an unearthly cadence. At first a wise mother's stern guidance, then a youth's fiery determination, and, when challenged by a sceptical Eldar, the biting scorn of a crone. Her presence, unlike Jainzar's stoic warrior fire, carried the weight of an approaching storm, cold and laden with promised destruction. The mask's demonic curse gnawed at the Craftworld's infinity circuit, threatening oblivion with each passing hour. Yvraine, emissary of Ynnead, the unborn god, whose power eclipsed the stars, offered salvation through the seventh path, a way between darkness and light. Her declaration of Ynnead's awakening sent a grave cold dread through every Eldar, their hearts gripped by trepidation. As whispers swelled and ebbed through the crowd, Jainzar's imperious gaze silenced the detractors. Yvraine spoke of Ynnead's nascent power, and a revolution to defy the myth that his full manifestation required every Eldar's death. Waiting for such a fate would extinguish their race. Instead, she revealed a vision from Commorragh's crucible. Ynnead's sentience focused on 5 crone swords, crafted by Vol from Commorragh's severed fingers, each entrusted to agents of the Eldar gods. These blades, wielding dominion over life and death, could awaken Ynnead if united. Raising Kavar, the sword of sorrows, its edge radiant with jewel light, she declared Asuvar, the sword of silent screams, lay within Biel-Tan's heart. 2 others were lost on Croneworlds, but claiming Asuvar would harness Ynnead's power and end the Craftworld's suffering. Uproar erupted around these words, in a clamour of outrage. Exarch Taraleth Shadowheart lunged, his biting blade revving, only to be felled by Jainzar's polearm. Others advanced, faces twisted with aggression and despair, but the visage stepped forward, his power sword a silent challenge. Yvraine, calm amidst the storm, closed her eyes, channeling her inner light into her blood-red gauntlet. With a plunge into the infected wraithbone core, a thunderous boom resounded as she drew Asuvar, the great blade, dripping psychic essence, its fell light searing the eyes. Screaming in triumph and pain, Yvraine held it aloft, energies coursing through her. The blade, a key among 5, unlocked hope, hidden by Commorragh for a time of dire need. The Craftworld quaked, high pillars splitting and crashing into the forests below in clouds of dust. A million souls cried out, freed from the infinity circuit where Slaaneshi demons hunted. The seismic tremors escalated, an eruption shaking Biel-Tan's core. Yvraine's voice rang out, "Arise! Arise and live!" From the shattered wraithbone burst a towering monstrosity, swathed in ectoplasm, a fusion of twisted bone and shimmering souls, both terrible and beautiful. The Biel-Tani was struck dumb by this staggering catastrophe of moment, their souls quaking, as their home crumbled away. Yvraine, glowing, radiant, rose into the air, her cry of fierce joy echoing. The apparition, the Incarn, Avatar of Ynnead, spoke a word of deafening silence, shaking the void as Biel-Tan fractured, reborn in the gods' awakening. The cataclysm unleashed by Yvraine on Biel-Tan was not a sudden fracture, but an eruption rippling outward, like a boulder breaking a lake's surface. By harnessing the death of the Infinity Circuit, Yvraine had birthed the Incarn, the Avatar of Ynnead, signalling the Whispering Gods' awakening and the opening of the seventh path for the Eldar race. With countless souls concentrated, and Ynnead's chosen gathered, the gods' power manifested, fulfilling Eldrad Ulthran's failed vision on Coheria, but at a much higher cost. The warp seethed for light years around, 100 psychic vortexes whirling through the stars. Biel-Tan's wraith-bone skeleton, already rotting from the mask's demonic taint, crumbled under the Incarn's violent birth, its domes and spires withering like petals from a frozen flower, revealing a shuddering megastructure in seismic ruin. The Infinity Circuit's collapse banished the demons within, their presence repelled by the Incarn's trauma. But stranded ancestral souls teetered between eternal darkness and Slaaneish's hunger. The warlike Biel-Tani, their emotions ablaze, turned hostile, some blaming a Commorragh invasion, others suspecting the Incarn as a Slaaneishi trick. Without its morbid beauty hovering above, Yvraine would have faced death a dozen times. Her Commorragh followers fought for survival. But once she entrusted Asuvar, the Sword of Silent Screams, to the Visage, none could stand against them. Pockets of kin strife flared where confusion trumped unity, quelled only by urgent psychic pleas from Farseers striving to save their home and ancestors. At Lathriel's command, Seers took waystones from the spectral gardens, pressing them to decaying wraith bone, to draw lost spirits into safety. Jet-bike couriers sped these gems to the ghost halls, where spirit seers installed them into wraith constructs, separate from the infected Infinity Circuit. Though viewed as necromancy, this soulcraft preserved Biel-Tan's legacy. Thousands of wraith warriors rose amidst the cracking landscapes. Yvraine's Ynnari, the reborn, moved through the wreckage, pressing empty waystones to unreachable circuit sections, drawing souls without psychic mastery. Some Biel-Tani, seeing this as theft, drew blades, only to be halted by the Harlequin's solemn warnings. These were Ynnead's faithful, joined willingly by the dead. Bone singers chanted, reshaping shrinecraft and dome ships, reforming Biel-Tan's ashen skeleton into a shadow of its former might. Their solar sails eaten away, the stern webway gate pulsing in pain as warp storms raged. Yvraine's faith wavered, the torn material realm trapping the Ynnari. Ulthway's Seer Council, led by Aldred, sensed Ynnead's awakening, a discoloured sky heralding deathly omens across the galaxy. Infinity circuits flared white-hot, Craftworlds surged with spiritual energy. Eldred demanded Yvraine's swift escort to Ulthway, though his peers whispered of overstepped bounds. In Ulthway's dome of crystal seers, amid wraith-bone staircases cradling fossilized seers, Eldred led a runic ritual, using the spiritual link between Ulthway and Biel-Tan's domes. "We summon the Bridge of Stars," he declared, tracing the rune of the Infinity Stride. "We have no choice." The Farseer's chant spun runes into a glowing circle, a hurricane forming as free seers turned to crystal. A warp portal opened, its funnel stretching light years, risking a demonic breach but succeeding through Ulthway's psychic supremacy. The Reborn, as they came to call themselves, passed through a howling vortex of chaos, its ferocity a threat to sanity, yet the Incarn, anathema to chaos as it was, led them unhindered. Its passage in real space scattered Imperial ships and dimmed the Astronomicon, costing thousands of human lives, a price the Eldar were willing to pay. Yvraine's followers included Commorraghs, Biel-Tani converts, and notably dire avengers from the Silvered Blade, their armour reshaped to match Yvraine's regal panoply. Guardians, grav tank pilots, and wraith warriors, their spirits feeling more alive than ever before, followed in Yvraine's wake. The Ynnari's hope, a force to defy Slaanesh, ignited a call to action unseen for 10 millennia, uniting Eldar across their myriad factions in a reborn cause. The Bridge of Stars, a riving tunnel through reality's fabric, pulsed with chaotic energies, its spasming aperture a conduit for the Ynnari and Ynnead's chosen. Guided by the Seer Council's runic mastery on Ulthwi and the Incarn's otherworldly psyche, the Reborn traversed the warp, emerging in Ulthwi's dome of crystal seers, a crystalline haven aglow with ancestral light. The ritual, a perilous gamble that claimed several Farseers' lives and drove some Ynnari to the edge of madness, birthed a stillness that soothed the soul. The dome's wraith-bone staircases cradling fossilized seers like sacred relics. The Incarn emerged first, its form a hissing chorus of the dead, gliding ethereally through the dome's heart. Slender yet towering, its androgynous presence dwarfed all save the Avatar of Cain, radiating a shuddering chill, unlike Cain's fiery wrath. It was a deluge of ice, both invigorating and shocking. The Ulthwi Seer Council, their crested helms glinting under the dome's luminescent arches, felt a cold terror settle upon them, their raptor-like gazes fixed on the Revenant as it circled the crystal seers, as if seeking a hidden truth. Yvraine followed, her regal dress gleaming beside the Visarch's scarlet armour, leading the Reborn, Biel-Tani converts, Commorragh allies and harlequins beneath the spiralling staircases. The air crackled with historic tension, the dome's warm zephyrs stirring the seers' rune-emblazoned robes. Yvraine's voice, clear and commanding, thanked Ulthwi for their great feat, a galactic crossing in mere hours, rivaling the Eldari's ancient prowess. She spoke of the seventh path, a way between darkness and light, urging the recovery of 2 crone swords buried on Belial 4, a crone world trapped in the Eye of Terror's warp-torn heart. These blades, forged by Vol from Moraheg's severed fingers, could focus Ynnead's ascension, restoring the cycle of life and death. Ulthwi, sentinel of the Eye of Terror, was their destined ally, their vigilance over chaos unmatched. The Visarch, his blade, Kavar, a silent testament, affirmed the sword's location, their retrieval a step towards defeating Slaanesh. Eldrad nodded in quiet satisfaction, but not all the seers of Ulthwi were content. But his failure on Coheria and the loss of the crystal seers had diminished Eldrad's power amongst his people. Eldrad, indignant, retorted, "I see further than all others," claiming his actions paved the way for a victory over Slaanesh. But he was mocked for this. Biel-Tan's destruction, the lost ancestors, and other slights and crimes were brought to the fore, dissolving the harmony. "You are no god, Eldred Ulthwan. Your time is past. It is the will of the Seer Council that you be exiled to the void." Eldrad slumped, his half-crystal bones heavy with 10,000 years of toil, his influence shattered. Yvraine's defence of Eldrad ignited further scorn. The Seers questioned her right to lead them into the Eye of Terror, after already reducing Biel-Tan to a skeletal shadow. Her Biel-Tani followers, their voices fervent, argued that Ynnead's awakening offered hope to heal their craftworld and restore the Eldar to glory, a crusade no longer deemed futile. Their passion swayed some, but the seers demanded clarity. Did they speak for Biel-Tan or a rogue faction? The reborn's silence spoke volumes, deepening the divide. The debate spiraled into veiled insults and open anger. The dome's serene beauty, a stark contrast to the seer's rising fury. A psychic missive halted the rhetoric, announcing visitors, a delegation from Craftworld Biel-Tan, their tall helmed warriors clad in colours of the broken chain, entering the dome with whispers trailing their steps. The Eldar of Biel-Tan had long been mistrusted, for they had survived within the Eye of Terror's embrace since the fall. More than that, the Craftworld had been drawn into the warp, and they only escaped through Morgan Ra's trials. Yet whispers of Slaaneshi taint lingered despite their professed loyalty. Their arrival, siding with Yvraine, sparked a furore. This was silenced when the Biel-Tan warlock, a Gwentilian onyx blade, her waxen face corpse pale, unclasped her helm and silenced the dome. Her Gyrinx, a psychic feline, prowled at her side, amplifying her presence. Holding her witchblade as a rod of office, she spoke in a whisper echoed by her kindred. The Crone Sword's location on Belial 4 was known, its reclamation vital. We failed once, and only escaped she who thirsts, thanks to Ynnead's shroud, she declared, slashing her throat in sacrifice. Her black blood spurting as she gave her soul to Yvraine. The priestess inhaled, the Gyrinx bonding with her, purring in recognition. Yvraine urged, "We must leave now to retrieve the Crone Sword of Belial 4, lest Slaaneshi's handmaidens reach it first." The Ulthwi attempted to bar her path, insisting the risk was too great. Yvraine countered, "None know the Eye as well as the Biel-Tan. Their millennia of survival proof of their skill." More conflict threatened, until Cassandrus, the Anchorite, Ulthwi's wisest seer, clad in simple black, stepped forward. His croaking baritone, unused for decades, quelled the tempest. At fate's crux, he warned, the Ynnari must depart, or another Craftworld would perish. The Seer Council turned away, and the Ynnari, now bolstered by Biel-Tan and Ulthwi sympathizers, marched to the dome's gates. Eldrad, bent by censure, and Cassandrus followed them. Before Ulthwi's cycle ended, they embarked for the Eye of Terror, a perilous quest to Slaaneshi's birthplace, their resolve unshaken. Belial 4, the fallen heart of Empire. Once the radiant core of the Eldar Empire, Belial 4 was a vast world whose gravity hurled comets through the cosmos like stones from a sling. From afar, it appeared tumultuous, but its surface was a prosperous Eden, its luxurious cities cradling every indulgence and unparalleled beauty. For millennia, it thrived as the golden nexus of a web of influence that tamed suns and forged stars. The cataclysm of Slaaneshi's birth had shattered this paradise, transforming Belial 4 into a purgatorial wasteland. Its once glorious cities became haunted ruins, their spires crumbling and becoming demon-infested caves, where the scattered riches of the Empire were rotting under eons of neglect. Across its desolate wastes, waystones, each a treasure beyond price, lay strewn, silent sentinels of a lost era. Chapter 6. Ashes. The journey into the Eye of Terror's depths depths was a harrowing odyssey. The purplish swirl of the vast warp storm, a predatory entity, its malevolent weight clawing at the soul like a black hole devouring light. Ulthwee's pilots, bearing the Ynnari through this cosmic maelstrom, clung to the icy resolve of Ynnead's promised ascension, their courage a defiance of the Eldari's modern instinct to cower. Graceful starships, shrouded in gigantic holofields, slipped past the Cadian Gate's war zones, navigating the unstable overlap of real space and the warp. They evaded fang-toothed tornadoes, fled ghost suns, endured hailstorms of bloody skulls, and rode tsunamis of raw warp energy. Yvraine's unyielding presence rallied the wavering, her leadership forging the Ynnari's reputation as a force of change, their ripples felt across the galaxy. Her transformation in Commorragh's crucible had triggered its disjunction, forcing Astrobal Vect to abandon the Dark City. Now, his homunculi allies, dispatched to Belial IV, pursued the same crone swords, a dark homecoming for the architects of the fall. After these surreal trials, the Ynnari reached Belial IV, their convoy orbiting its milk-white orb, a crone world of haunted ruins. Guided by Gwentilian's spirit, or perhaps Ynnead's will, most Eldar had survived the journey, and they descended in Ulthwee's gravtax to a desolate surface blanketed in off-white dust, the residue of a shattered civilization. The air was stale, untouched by life for centuries, yet flickers of half-real movement haunted the periphery. Ulthwee's war-host fanned out in a spiralling search, the Midnight Sorrow's harlequins moving with exaggerated stealth, their swiftness hinting at prior visits. Their shadowseer, trailing a shimmering veil, warned Yvraine of flesh and blood pursuers, not ghosts or demons. Behind them came a howling menagerie of horrors, eyeless Urguls, muscle-bound hulks festooned with steroid injectors, and whip-limbed hunchbacks, charged from the ruins. Led by Urian Rakaf's homunculi, their flayed skull grins eager for gruesome experiments. The Ynnari, blood brides, incubi, black guardians, and harlequins met the assault, razored blades bisecting Urguls and decapitating masked monstrosities. The homunculi's creations fought on despite grievous wounds, their unnatural strength hurling Ynnari into dust drifts. Talos pain engines drifted toward Yvraine, their claws twitching. But Biel-Tani dire avengers' shuriken catapults tore wounds in their carapaces, black liquid spraying. Wraith blades intercepted them, their ghost swords gleaming, but the pain engine's claws rent them apart. The Visage danced through, his blade, Kavir, slashing with grace, leaving blood-drizzling husks. The eldest homunculus, irritated, unleashed djinn spirits from a rune-engraved box, their sickly light lifting the Visage, snapping his limbs. The Incarn roared, tearing the djinn to ectoplasmic wisps and reducing their master to dust, his Commorragh remains crumbling simultaneously. A true death, dealt by Ynnead's avatar. The remaining homunculi fled, their immortality too precious to risk. As the Ynnari regrouped amidst Belial IV's ruins, a ululating shriek pierced the air, heralding the next peril in their quest for the crone swords. Screams of savage joy pierced the desolate ruins of Belial IV. Not cries of agony, but the exultant shrieks of lunatic killers. Slaneshi demons, drawn by the psychic spore of carnage. The Ynnari, hearing their approach, felt ancestral fear clutch their hearts, the terror of eternal torment in Slaneshi's grasp. Though they trusted Yvraine's power to shield their souls, the dread lingered. Bloodbrides, darting to elevated ruins, peered through ivory mists, spotting blade-wheeled chariots sparking against tumbled stones, followed by a tide of sprinting demonettes. The Ynnari were the quarry, ensnared in a hunt. Yvraine cursed, her inner souls guiding her toward the crone sword nearby, its trail marked by dead waystones, Aisha's tears, dulled of psychic life, converging toward a nexus. The demon's timing, perhaps deliberate, to thwart her search, left no time to investigate. Yvraine, her gyrinx growling, seized her crone sword, Kavar, and charged, the visage leading through dense ruins to foil the chariot's pursuit. Ulthwee's strike force, mere miles away under Eldrad's orders, offered hope, but the Slaneshi encircled them, racing along ancient boulevards with steeds and scorpion-tailed fiends, their pincers clacking. Trapped in a sinkhole pit, a pulsing, growling gullet, the Ynnari prepared for a last stand. Shuriken fire met the demonettes, slicing them apart, but fueling their ecstatic fury further. The Midnight Sorrow's harlequins dove into the fray, their somersaults mirroring the Slaneshi dance, a choreographed clash from their mythic performances. Yvraine, absorbing fallen Eldar souls, invigorated her warriors, their quick silver strikes outpacing the demons. A moan of longing rose from the horde, as a vast claw-tipped tongue, large as a hive transmotive, erupted from the gullet, bearing 3 greater demons led by the Queen of Suffering. Her ecstatic howl accompanied a crushing sweep, killing hundreds of Eldar. Her kin backhanded harlequins into pincers, ruby blood raining. The Yinkan loomed, its whisper a roaring waterfall. It throttled the Queen, but her courtier's pincers yanked it down, hooves stamping it into the earth. Yvraine's anguished cry unleashed a whispering storm that turned demonettes to grey statues that crumbled to dust, though more surged forward. Eldrad and Cassadorus struck a keeper of secrets, their witchblades flaring, while harlequins vaulted, their dance echoing the final act from Commorragh's theatres. Recognizing the pattern, Yvraine danced, her childhood training predicting the harlequins and demonettes' movements. Vaulting toward the dead Waystone's nexus, she felt a crone sword's pulsing energy draining life from nearby gems. Placing her hands on the ground, she cried out, and the Incarn burst forth, reborn in ice-blue energies, wielding Zelifzar, the Sword of Souls. Soaring, it cleaved the Queen from groin to neck, its deathly speed hacking the greater demons to nothingness. The blade, ravenous after millennia, fueled the Incarn's whirlwind assault, its killing mists and thrusts felling demons. Slicing the claw tongue, it forced the gullet's retreat. Inspired by this, the harlequins redoubled their attack and scattered the horde, just as Ulthwee reinforcements converged on their location and finally destroyed this demonic trap. Craftworld Biel-Tan. Once the preeminent world ship of the scattered Eldar, Biel-Tan thrived as a vibrant capital, its biodomes teeming with life across the eons. Catastrophes have dimmed its glory, rendering it a pale shadow of its former might. Chaos fleet raids and Wreckfist tested its strength, but it was High Fleet Kraken that brought ruin. Biel-Tan's initial victory in a grueling space battle against the Tyranid bioships had sparked hope, their superior tactics prevailing against the relentless mass. Yet, wave after wave followed, overwhelming the craftworld. Skittering hordes ravaged every biodome, threatening total consumption. It was Prince Yril who saved the craftworld from complete annihilation. An exiled Corsair commander, he returned despite his bitterness. His armada breaching the Tyranid blockade to end the threat. The cost was dire. 9/10 of Iyandon's populace had perished before the last Tyranid fell. Now the Craftworld relies on its ghost halls, wraith-bone constructs for survival. Its rune, the light in the darkness, flickering on the brink of extinction, though some strive to make it blaze bright one last time. Chapter 7. The Flame of Iyandon. United with Ulthweir's warriors, the Ynnari had shattered the Slaaneshi hold on Belial 4, their strike forces flowing like swift streams through the Chrome World's ruins and dust dunes. Yvraine led the charge, her regalia billowing in ethereal winds, sprinting past shattered arches and fallen statues towards the memorial hall of Atranesis, a vast museum of pre-fall Eldar treasures. Ulthweir's blade-wielding specialists formed a protective wall, guiding the Ynnari into the hall's defensible ramps and daises. As they took position, golden light flooded the interior, two immense structures unfurling like butterfly wings to reveal a rune portal, visible only to the dead, or Ynnead's blessed. From it emerged a towering Wraith Knight, in Iyandon's yellow and blue heraldry, followed by two more. Their sun cannons thrummed, blasting demons into oblivion with plasma volleys. A Wraith Knight's blade smashed chariots to shrapnel, and Ayana Arianel, the Angel of Iyandon, appeared among smaller ghost warriors, forming a wraith-bone bulwark that repelled demons while letting Eldar pass. Ayana beckoned the Ynnari into the portal, a perilous webway spar used by Iyandon to harvest waystones. Led by the gifted Spirit Seer and the Midnight Sorrow, the Reborn reached the second golden portal at Vadir Wayport after weeks of arduous travel. Ayana's Bone Singer Seal and lilting songs of Eldonesh's lineage opened runic locks, ushering them into Iyandon's misty ghost halls, their alcoves empty of inactive constructs. Distant thunder, battle, not tempest, echoed above. The Visage loosened his blade, sensing conflict. Yvraine felt hope and despair. She had only claimed Vilif Zar, the Sword of Souls, from Belial 4, with the second Crone Sword and Iyandon's expected blade missing. Ayana informed Yvraine that Iyandon was under siege by Nurgle's forces from warp-spawned space hulks. The attack suspiciously aligned with the Ynnari's arrival. On the Bridge of Endless Night, Ayana likened their fate to Omathrian's torment, vowing to exact a toll on the invaders. Yvraine, citing Omathrian's rebirth, urged defiance, but Ayana warned against extinguishing Iyandon's flame. Dan Tiln Farsight, a Farseer, blocked their path with Wraithguard, insisting the Ynnari rest to avoid distraction during the Armada's battle. Yvraine's refusal was met with raised weapons, forcing compliance. Sequestered in sumptuous halls, the Ynnari were prisoners, attended by adolescents, but still confined. Above, Nurgle's rotflies and demon princes breached crystal domes. They were met by swooping hawks and crimson hunters. Their lances felled the demon princes Garalgor, Oglu, and Melethris, but the rot fleet's hulks loomed closer. Their drones gnawed at Eldar ships' solar sails, slowing them just enough for the fleet's broadsides to hit home. Yvraine, her rage contained, reached out psychically, sensing the Armada's demise. A flare of intent. Threal Longblade, Corsair captain, answered. Hidden by hollow fields, her fleet's pulsar batteries and phantom lances struck a hulk's reactor, igniting a new star. Yvraine smiled. the Ynnari's hope rekindled amidst Iandan's desperate stand. As Thriel Longblade's corsairs obliterated one Nurgle-infested Space Hulk, Iandan's armada and the Eldritch Raiders turned their wrath on the larger behemoth, christened Spawn of Ogonathir by Prince Yril. Like star sharks savaging a void whale, their sleek ships danced through the void, pulsar batteries and phantom lances, carving glowing craters into the Hulk's pitted hide. Forged in Nurgle's garden, its grotesque bulk, fused with ancient ships, asteroids, and decay, defied their assaults. Its mass a looming threat to ram Iandan into ruin. Yril, exiled yet ever its saviour, devised a daring free-stage assault with his corsair captains. Using Iandan as bait, he dictated its course to align with a webway spar, a gambit so bold it ignited the pride of his peers. Within hours, sleek assault craft slipped from their ships, threading past demonic rotflies swarming Iandan's exterior to enter the Craftworld's stern webway portal with minimal losses. Guided by Yril's hunter's instincts and ancient Ulthanashi maps, the Corsairs navigated the labyrinthine dimension to a spar intersecting the Hulk's path. Activating personal webway devices, they stepped through shimmering discs into the Spawn's fetid heart, a cavernous abyss of a pitch-black decay. Foul ichor drizzled from vaulted ceilings, its acrid stench clawing at their senses despite hermetically sealed armour and air reservoirs, crafted from centuries of reaving. Puffy fungal heads, remnants of past intruders, wheezed spores that could choke life in moments. But the Corsairs darted through their slimy corridors, their boots slipping on pulsating floors. The distant thrum of engines, steady as a diseased heartbeat, drew them deeper through a visceral maze, its walls slick with mucus and writhing cilia, more akin to a sea monster's gut than a spacecraft. Dodging tentacle-like growths and leaping over bubbling acid pools, the Corsairs reached the Engineerium, a swamp-like chamber where slime-slicked cocoons pulsed with Nurgle's beasts. At its centre squatted Garol Googlegore, a demon prince so obese his abdomen pinned him in place, yet his whip-thin tentacles quivered with menace. A gurgling laughter filled the air as Yril, wielding the Spear of Twilight, leapt across islands of solid ground, its blade blazing with cursed energies that drained his life with each swing. A tendril snared Prince Lumino, snapping him in half, his scream rousing the cocoons. Glistening rotflies burst forth, half-formed wings buzzing as they lurched toward the intruders. The Corsairs unleashed a storm of Jakero digital weapons, Aeldari soul knives, Commorragh slasher prisms, and elixirs that tripled their reflexes, their acrobatic swordsmanship rivaling Kagarak's harlequins. Blades flashed, severing dripping limbs as the Eldar danced through the chaos, their precision defying the rotfly's clumsy assaults. Yril fought fiercest of all, his heart heavy with Iandan's past betrayals and the spear's toll, yet driven to save his home. Running up a corroded wall, he backflipped over a grasping tentacle, his greatcoat billowing, landing on a gantry for a killing thrust. Garol Googlegore sprayed stringy vomit, and as Yril twisted, black pseudopods snared him, binding his arms. The Eye of Twilight flared, its electric storm incinerating the tentacles, freeing Yril. With a final, desperate lunge, he drove the spear into the Engineerium's core, its eldritch power necrotizing machinery into black rust, halting the Hulk's advance. Exhausted, Yril couldn't dodge a tentacle wielding a broken girder, which crushed him with a single blow, his body crumbling as the spear's glow dimmed. Garol Googlegore, slaughtering the remaining Corsairs with sadistic glee, stirred a blood-laced pool, reciting Nurgle's 7 sickening psalms. His psychic senses probed the spear, its baleful energies, a key to ruin Iyanden and weaken Slaanesh in the Great Game. Encasing Yrel's corpse in milky resin with the spear across his chest, he cast it into space, a venomous gift to sow despair. His laughter shook rust from the rafters, a promise of Grandfather Nurgle's triumph. Hemlock Wraith fighters, sensing the corpse, retrieved it with a Wraith construct familiar. Iyanden streets echoed with wails, Yrel's loss a wound to their fading light in the darkness, his sacrifice deepening their cursed fate. Prince Yrel, High Admiral of Iyanden's Armada and bastard scion of the House of Ulthanash, Prince Yrel stood as a peerless Eldar commander. His life was forged in a daring assault against a Chaos fleet, crushing the Dark God's scions, but leaving Iyanden vulnerable. Instead of praise, he faced censure, his pride driving him to forsake his home as an outcast, leading his Eldritch Raiders to become the galaxy's most feared Corsair fleet. Yrel swore never to return, yet High Fleet Kraken's assault on Iyanden drew him back. His raiders' glorious strikes smashed the Tyranid fleet against the Craftworld's guns. And, on its surface, Yrel wielded the cursed Spear of Twilight from the shrine of Ulthanash, its soul-draining power felling the Tyranid leader beast and unravelling its swarms. Restored as autarch, Yrel bore the spear's inescapable curse, roaming the stars to restore Iyanden's fading majesty before it slips into myth. Yvraine called in old debts, summoning Corsair allies to aid Iyanden. This went some way to vindicating the Ynnari in the eyes of the Craftworld seers. As Nurgle's legions spread throughout the Craftworld, they were freed from confinement. They immediately set to banishing swaves of Nurgle demons and their infections. Prince Yrel's resin-encased body was quarantined in the Baron Chamber, isolated from Iyanden's Infinity Circuit to guard against Nurgle's possible gifts. When Wraith constructs broke the resin, a cloud of plague spores erupted, a contagion that could have turned living Eldar into walking plague beds. A spirit seer relayed the danger to Ayana Arianal, who escorted Yvraine to the chamber. Yvraine commanded the Ghost Warriors to retreat into the airlock vestibule, then raised Kavir, channeling Ynnead's necromantic energies. Waves of lethal power flooded the chamber, sparing Yrel's corpse, but annihilating Garel Google-Gore's spores and microorganisms. Yvraine traced her fingers along the barren chamber's doors, which parted soundlessly. 2 wraith blades barred her path, but Ayana waved them aside. With a curtsy, Yvraine entered, smiling, and seized the Spear of Twilight. Reversing it, she plunged it into Yrel's chest. With a shuddering gasp, the Corsair prince sat upright, his pallid flesh restored to a vigour unseen since he first wielded the cursed blade. The spear, returning the life it had siphoned, turned to quicksilver in Yvraine's grip, revealing its true form as Salanathrash, the 5th Crone Sword. Handing it to Yrel, it reshaped into a spear, and he rose, eyes glowing with reborn power. Prince Yrel, scion of Ulthanash, was reborn, and soon others would follow. In the Hall of Truths, mist gathered under the vast dome, wraithbone waterfalls echoing with the voices of Iyanden's heroes, living and dead. Vasir Dantilm opened the council. Take heed, children of Asurion, for this is a day of fates. Eldred Ulthwan urged action. We must change the galaxy's fate. The red moon rises, the veil torn nightly. We cannot prevail alone. Selendra Veilwalker, a harlequin, added, "The Tau are too young, the Orcs unpredictable, Tyranids impossible, humans corruptible." Dantilian said, "With faith, they have power." All agreed that the galaxy needed assistance, but the Eldar were too weak now to do it alone. The Wraith Knight, Soul Seeker, stepped forward. He dismissed the humans and their emperor, not their corpse god. His time is over. Yvraine entered with Ayana. Yril shadowed behind. "They need a new leader," Yvraine declared, "to serve our interests." Lord Heraclio scoffed at this. "Impossible. They're entrenched in their ways." Ayana retorted, "They worship their past. Their hero evoking it will draw them, as we cling to our myths. Eldred revealed that I've seen a path through the Skeens to Clysis, Althanash's rest. For a human leader, they'll follow like sheep." Dantillan bristled. "You do not steer us, Ulthwyn." Yril stepped forward, the wraith constructs kneeling to him. "We shall give the humans a demigod, a king reborn with a deathly blade. Iyandon's hosts will go with us." In Commorragh, Astrobal Vect seethed over the Ynnari's impact, his city racked by disjunction. Nurgle demons flooded the river Cadiz. Zentian sky sharks clashed with murder packs. Khorne's bloodletters ravaged Sek Meagra, and Slaneshi hordes massacred cabals. Escaped Tyranids carved paths through witch cults, and Archon Scythrak fell to Caradruach's blade. The Decapitator, completing his skull ritual, opened a mandrake gateway, his shadow kingdom consuming all within miles. Homunculi and shadow demons slowed the incursion, but Commorragh's fractured cabals fought disjointedly. Vect claimed that he had captured Yvraine, but all he had done is torture her abandoned allies, though rumours of this lie spread, fueled by Lady Melise. Irian Rakab's prophets of flesh hunted the Ynnari, drawn to Yvraine's soul magic, a power offering eternal life and true death, as they had discovered on Belial 4. Chapter 8. War in the Webway. With the galactic cataclysm unfolding, the Ynnari, emboldened by the Iyandon Seer Council's decision, hastened to the ghost halls, their wraithbone arches glowing with ancestral light. Yvraine, her necromantic mastery, a conduit for Ynnead's will, channeled the consciousnesses of ancient heroes from the Infinity Circuit into wraithbone constructs, bypassing the Spirit Stone's dreamlike veil. These reborn warriors, no longer bound by torpor, moved with the fluid grace of their mortal lives, their mute deference a silent hymn to Yvraine's power. Taking up ancestral heraldry, gleaming blades and rune-etched armour, they stood as living legends, their senses alive, their vengeance unquenched. Ayana Arianel, joined by her spirit seers, awakened entire halls, the constructs stirred by Ynnead's call to war against Slaanesh. Traditionalists decried the drain on Iyandon's defences, but none dared bar these ancient heroes, their resolve to save the Eldar race unyielding. Bolstered by Biel-Tan's swordwind, Altansar's ghostly emissaries and strike forces from other craftworlds, the Ynnari plunged through Iyandon's stern portal into the Webway's depths, guided by the Midnight Sorrow's harlequins. The Webway, The twilight realm of fractal corridors tested their resolve. Surreal visions haunted their periphery, shimmering echoes of lost worlds, whispering shadows that clawed at sanity. False turns led to shimmering voids, and the chaos-tainted wilderness, abandoned even by harlequins, pulsed with the dark god's influence. Ahriman, Tzeentch's arch-sorcerer, whether he knew it or not, stalked these paths. Once a noble imperial warrior, his quest to save his brother Thousand Sons from their gene seed's curse had led him to dark corners of knowledge. His rubric spell, meant to preserve them, sealed their souls in dust-filled armour, a half-life he sought to undo. Magnus's cataclysm on Fenris, birthing warp storms, had empowered the Thousand Sons, and Ahriman, wielding secrets from the tome Libranthus, scried the webway for the Ynnari, drawn by whispers of their resurrection powers. His demonic spies tracked the swollen Ynnari host, now too large for stealth, through Psychodelta's thin-walled tunnels. Sacrificing 999 captives to Tzeentch, Ahriman translocated with a host of Thousand Sons and gibbering demons, ambushing the Reborn in a pyrotechnic clash of sorcery and skill. The battle scorched Psychodelta's still air, Tzeentchian magic warring against the Ynnari's spiritual conjurations. Initially confined to a narrow front, the Thousand Sons' thrall bands and demons pressed relentlessly, but the Eldar flowed like quicksilver, their duelist's grace countering each thrust. As Ahriman's assaults forced them back, the conflict spilled into the Psychodelta's capillaries, and splintering into half a dozen battles across parallel tunnels. On a crystal bridge, open to the void's starry abyss, Iandan Guardians and Wraith Knight Soulseeker charged a squad of Scarab occult terminators. Shuriken cannons roared, their discs sparking off ensorcelled ceramite, while combi bolters thundered, scorching Wraithbone. The Terminator's sorcerers unleashed azure cages, slicing Wraithguard into ivory chunks, but Soulseeker's flickering shield absorbed the magical storm. His distortion cannons opened warp vortexes, banishing Terminators, and his Ghostblade cleaved their ranks, shattering cohesion. Wraith blades surged, axes hewing Prosperine armour, but the bridge cracked, sending some constructs tumbling into fractal oblivion, their silent screams echoing in the void. In a demon-choked spar, Biel-Tan's spearhead faced pink horrors and lords of change, their mutagenic flames wreaking havoc. Howling banshees became infants in oversized armour. Swooping hawks dissolved into serpentine rain, and dire avengers shuriken turned on them like ravenous piranhas, each death fueling the horror's skirling laughter. Jain Zar, majestic as Cain himself, led the Phoenix Lords from the shadows. Bararov's rifle blinded a Lord of Change, his sword severing its head in a sapphire blur. Jain Zar's polearm carved spirals through pink horrors, her Triskel cleaving them and their brimstone kin. Hugin, wreathed in fiery heat, blasted Zarzat the Ineffable into mist, while Asherman impaled a Tzeentchian herald, his dire avengers shredding it. Morgan Ra, atop a fallen Wraith Knight, felled screamers with bio-explosive shuriken, turning burning chariots into meteors. Karandra struck from the shadows, hacking Vexwing into nothingness. The Phoenix Lord's lethality, honed over millennia, left no demon unscathed. Althwe's Black Guardians, led by Aldred Ulthran and Cassadarus, charged Rubricae, risking inferno bolts that could tear limbs asunder. Eldrad's runes wove uncanny fortune. Cassadarus's lightning disrupted firing lines, but Ahriman's transmutive flames turned Cassadarus into a wooden statue, frozen in anguish. Ahriman's pink fire incinerated harlequins, and his rubricae battered Eldar with sudden ferocity, clubbing them with bolter stocks. Eldrad's staff of Ulthamar shattered armour like china. The tunnel descended into anarchic psychic warfare, neon hues searing the mind. Ahriman's exiles, 9 sorcerers of immense power, joined the fray. Aztar, Monotek, tore incubi apart with invisible claws. Nerat's knucklebones birthed skeletal warriors, and Ahriman's noose choked scores of Eldar. Yvraine, her face a snarl, charged with the visage and the incarn. The sword of silent screams bisecting a sorcerer. The incarn's quicksilver daggers, fueled by a demigod's strength, tore through rubricae, its spiritual vortex freezing their animating forces. On a fiery disc, Ahriman trapped Yvraine, the visage, and the incarn atop the webway psycho-crystal exterior. The void's silence was suffocating. His voice echoed in her mind. "You have no power here in my new domain." A spirit voice within her urged her to say, "Azek Ahriman, I have that which you seek. I can restore your brethren." Yvraine pressed the psycho-crystal, reversing the rubric cycle. A dozen rubricae staggered, clutching at hearts that beat for the first time in millennia. "Azak? Is that you, brother? Where are the Athenians? In Magnus's name, what is going on?" one called. Ahriman, trembling with mirth or grief, who could say, yanked the trio back into battle. Yvraine channeled Ynnead's energy. "Do it," she commanded. Soulseeker carved a chasm through the crystal, and the incarn's maw inhaled, pulling the revived rubricae into the void. Ahriman screamed, pursuing on his disc. Yvraine declared, "The whispering god gives new life just as he takes it away," as the reborn surged in for the kill. With Ahriman's defeat and his thrall bands trapped beyond a metaphysical chasm, the Psychodelta battle turned decisively for the Ynnari. Yvraine's forces, battered but resolute, backtracked to join their rearguard at the Delta's mouth, taking arterial tunnels to safety. Half their number fell, but spirit stones secured their souls, allowing them to fight on within Yvraine. The Incarn and Phoenix Lords vanished, leaving a tunnel strewn with discorporeating demons. Guided by the Midnight Sorrow's harlequins, who followed Kagarak's laughter like a beacon, the Ynnari pressed toward Chlysis. The Laughing God, amused by Yvraine's gambit, twisted fate to aid her, seeking to form a pantheon with Ynnead and Cain to defy Slaanesh. Some Ynnari, adorned in sumptuous regalia, began honouring this trinity, echoing ancient Eldar devotions. A spirit seer's jest about Iana as maiden, Yvraine as mother, and Lilith Hesperex as crone drew a blood bride's sharp glare, silencing her mirth. The Ynnari sped towards Chlysis, corpse-pale moon orbiting Kazahon, its blizzards cloaking blood-stained snows. Eldrad's visions foretold its crimson omens, evoking Eldenash's blood spilled by Cain, a dire portent he hoped signalled ruin for their foes. Unbeknownst to them, Chlysis was a battleground where Abaddon's Black Legion savaged Imperials led by Saint Celestine. At the Crone's Claws webway portal, Yvraine traced psychic fire around its trigger sphere, unleashing a gale of icy wind as the gate opened. The Ynnari emerged into a hemispherical hollow, its rocky lip framing a blood-soaked wasteland of corpses and gory slush. Monkai, Imperials, Black Templar Space Marines, Sisters of Battle, Guardsmen, and Adeptus Mechanicus machine men fought desperately around ravaged Imperial knights, defending Inquisitor Greyfax, Archmagos Kor, and Celestine, unaware of the nearby Xenos structure. Ynnari senses pierce the blizzard, spotting the Black Legion's assault. Ulthway's Wind Riders and the cult of Strife's witches, sent by Lilith Hesperax to probe Yvraine's soul-saving power, surged forward, flowing around the Imperials to crash against the Chaos Space Marines. Biel-Tan's aspect warriors, entrusting their souls to Ynnead, shed their war masks, honouring both Cain and the Whispering God. The Black Legion's blood stained Clysis's snows, their mutant corpses piling high. After a third failed assault, he ordered a withdrawal, leaving the Imperials in the Ynnari's tenuous sanctuary. Chapter 9. Alliance. The Eldar and Imperials eyed each other wearily. Barely 100 humans remained, clustered around Archmagos Kor's prized Triarios conveyor, their exhaustion and wounds belied by fervent faith and unyielding resolve. The Ynnari, recognizing the Black Legion's horrors, admired their defiance against Abaddon, a feat worthy of the Dark Muses. Even the cult of Strife's witches, hardened by cruelty, felt grudging respect. Parting their ranks, the Imperials revealed Saint Celestine, flanked by the suspicious Inquisitor Greyfax and Kor, whose servo eyes tracked a live figure, vanishing among the Ynnari, unseen but felt. Wartark Millennial led Yvraine, the Visage, and Eldrad forward, their ethereal aura like monarchs from myth. Greyfax's hand gripped her power sword. The Visage mirrored her, clasping Asuvar. Tension rippled, warriors bristling, until Millennial's voice rang clear. "I know you feel hatred for our kind," he said, in flawless Gothic, bowing to Celestine. "You have good reason to. But just as your million far-flung worlds each has its own culture, we too are a fractured people. You look upon that element that would see humanity and Eldar both escape their doom." Greyfax spat. "We look upon pampered peacocks and depraved fiends." Earning Celestine's reprimand, but standing firm, Millennial pressed on. "I thought so too at first. My people have reason to fear the unknown more than most. But these visionaries are agents of destiny and hope." Yvraine's voice, steady and sure, added, "Your saint and I share the same goals, even if she is yet to fully understand exactly what they are." Greyfax retorted, "You Eldar, twist fate, and only ever in your own selfish interests." Millennial nodded. "Perhaps, but there is only one thread that leads to salvation, and it is tenuous indeed. Our mutual enemies are in the ascendant as we speak. Look above you." Celestine, unyielding, said, "I know the sight well enough. The warp rift is an ugly and infected wound. We must prevent it growing any worse." Yvraine gestured to the conveyor. "This lumpen thing contains hope. The Lord it belongs to will be a powerful symbol for your people. He will oppose the ruinous powers and turn back the encroaching darkness." The Visage stepped forward, vowing, and he will not be alone in that fight. Greyfax's eyes narrowed, her voice cold. "You have won yourself an hour. Convince us or die." Hours of parley unfolded, thick with history's weight, as Casaholm's sun sank behind the crone's claws' curling talons. Celestine insisted her visions led here. The Ynnari's intervention no coincidence. The conveyor's cargo, vital to their mission, needed to enter the webway. Greyfax, cautious yet pragmatic, agreed the task outweighed immediate slaughter, plotting to deal with the Xenos later. Marshal Amalric, weary but relenting, sheathed his blade, his Black Templars reluctantly following suit. The alliance formed, the Imperials entrusting their path to the Ynnari to outpace Abaddon's pursuit and safeguard Qual's ward. Crouching through fresh snow under warp-torn skies, the Eldar entered the glittering Wraith Gate first, rejoining their war host with solemn nods. The Imperials followed, awestruck by the webway's radiant architecture, a mere prelude to their shared destiny. Ultramar and Macragge. Well, thank you all for watching. The Eldar, eh? A curse upon the galaxy. But the next one is coming up soon. Rise of the Primarch. And for those of you who listened to the previous version, you will know what's coming. But for those of you who haven't, I hope you enjoy what's coming up. As spoilers, old girly man himself returns. But anyway, I will be back again very, very soon. Thank you everybody sticking with the channel. Please do remember to give this video a like and a comment. It really, really helps. Share this with anyone you think might enjoy it, if you wouldn't mind. That really, really helps. We're trying to rebuild the channel's library and get the channel back to where it used to be. It's a bit of a struggle, but you know, it's okay. More videos are coming up soon. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Some of the older stuff is coming back as well, for those of you wondering. I'm just working through stuff at the moment. But I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, I'll be back again very, very soon. Thank you all again for watching. Thanks very much, yeah. Thank you to everybody supporting the channel as well. And if you would like to support the channel, which I would really appreciate at this time, yeah, please do consider becoming a Patreon or a channel member or super chats and all that sort of stuff. I really, really appreciate it. It's tough times, boys, so I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to go. Thank you all for watching. More stuff coming soon. And remember, please do give the video a like and a comment. It really, really, really helps. May the Emperor protect. Thankfully, I don't have to say any more of these Eldar names for a while. I mean, only Yvraine, really. I think she's the only one who really pops up in Rise of the Primarch. So thankfully, that's the end of that. We can go back to sort of quasi-Latin for a while with the Imperium. Ta-ra, bye-bye. Have a good week. It'll be out in about 2 weeks. That's what I'm aiming for now, 2 weeks for a video. And apologies again for all the AI stuff, but we've got to work with what we got. It's a necessity. All right, ta-ra, bye-bye.